know, when you do your jaw, you have to kind of let it drain down the side of your neck.
In today's video, I want to give Kendall Jenner's Gua Sha routine a TCM makeover.
Don't judge me. I don't have the most skill when it comes to this.
There is no judgment here and no shade. I just simply want to represent for authentic Chinese medicine. So I'm going to show you 6 changes I would make to Kendall's Gua Sha routine to make it more based in Chinese medicine. Because that is where Gua Sha comes from. It's part of the Chinese medicine system, and it's often practiced alongside acupuncture, cupping, moxibustion, Chinese herbal therapy, qigong, tui na, etc., etc. And by the way, I'm not a rando. I'm a TCM practitioner and acupuncturist, and I specialize in treating dermatology conditions and cosmetic concerns. Some of the ways that I see people using their Gua Sha tool as part of a Gua Sha routine is actually bad for your health, and we'll talk about that in this video. When you practice a cultural healing tradition according to the way that it was developed over thousands of years, literally, of history, which is what Gua Sha has, thousands of years of history, then you get a more powerful version of that medicine at home. I want to make sure that you're practicing a form of Gua Sha that really serves you. And a lot of the Gua Sha that I see that goes viral online is often not in accordance with the principles of Chinese medicine. That's what happens to a lot of things that come to the West here, like yoga. Many of the forms of yoga that we see practiced today is really far from how it was practiced in the culture from which it came, India. So I see that happening to Gua Sha, and Gua Sha is already being labeled as a lymphatic drainage technique, and I would never call it that as a Chinese medicine practitioner. I don't think it's anything like lymphatic drainage if you know what lymphatic drainage actually is. Really quick before we begin, I do want to give Kendall Jenner props here for being so gracious and humble about the fact that she isn't an expert in Gua Sha and that she's just doing her best here to show you what she does that works for her. And I think that's really important when you are an influencer and you are representing a cultural healing tradition that's outside of your expertise. All right, first, a few minor issues with Kendall's Gua Sha prep.
A little Gua Sha, 100% virgin coconut oil face oil. And I love it because it's thick. So the reason I do it before I wash my face is because I'm using a lot of heavy oils, and to make sure all the oils come off of my face, I cleanse after. So right when I wake up in the morning before I do anything, this is what I do.
So 2 things. I think it's important to do Gua Sha on a clean, fresh face. So I would actually cleanse first. Now, Kendall is just waking up, so probably doesn't have much going on her face, so it's probably fine. But some people do get a little sweaty, maybe even a little grimy through the night. I would just go ahead and give yourself a quick moisturizing cleanse. And if this is later in the day, after you've been out and about, 1000%, you should be cleansing first and then applying your oils and mists. The second thing here is that coconut oil is pretty heavy for acne prone or oily skin. So if that's what you have going on with your skin, I don't think coconut oil is the best choice. I would go for something like black seed oil or a blend that was designed specifically for oily and acne prone skin. One of my favorites is sea berry oil by Apoterra. I also love a simple, singular black seed oil, which is a really light oil that penetrates really beautifully so that it doesn't stay on top of the skin. It really just pulls into the skin and softens it. And I find a lot of success with those oils on my patients with acne. Let's go on.
I saw a video online of a seemingly very pro Gua Sha woman, and she said, do this before you wash your face. So that's why I do it.
It can be really hard to tell who actually is an expert in Gua Sha out there. I'm gonna assert that experts in Gua Sha have to be a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, because if you haven't trained in Chinese medicine, you don't know half of the things that are important to know and practice and be cautious about with Gua Sha. So the way to know who is actually trained in Chinese medicine is to look for an LAC or a DAC behind our names. This stands for licensed acupuncturist or doctor of acupuncture, and it means that we've not only trained, but have a license to practice. Let's go on.
I usually start with 100% virgin coconut oil face oil, and then I'll spray a little of my rose water.
She is applying oil first and then her rose water. I would actually reverse that. When you prep your skin for Gua Sha, applying the fluid or the mist first will actually make a difference. The water, the fluid, starts to open the skin to what will come after it. It's like making your skin a better receiver for an oil or a serum that you put on after your skin is wet first. And this is really important for users of facial oils. If you're someone who's ever said, ew, I hate facial oils, if you're not wetting your skin first with a hydrating fluid or a hydrating mist, that is probably why you hate it. And I bet that if you used a facial mist before you apply your oil, I bet you would love a facial oil. I bet you would. Okay, so this next one is a major Chinese medicine no-no.
My Guasha is sitting in a little cup of ice right now so that it's nice and cold. I'll start by putting it on my eyes because it heats up really fast from my body heat.
Okay, if you want to practice authentic Gua Sha, please never ice your tool because in Chinese medicine, cold energy, and this is especially the case with ice, which is an extreme form of cold energy can harm your health. Now, a lot of people come for me when I say that. They don't want me to come for their iced tea and their iced coffee, and I get it, but this is a principle in Chinese medicine. I have a lot of people tell me, I drink cold things all the time, I eat cold things all the time, and I have great health. And to you, I say, bless, because if that's true, you are blessed with strong health. You have a strong constitution, but not everybody does. So a lot of my patients with digestion issues, poor gut health, menstrual cramps, for example, any kind of pain condition, we are taking ice away from you. No, we're not. I wish we could, but we're advising you to minimize or just stop altogether the consumption of anything cold. And guess what? That really helps people's health. I can't tell you how many times I've seen this. Back to Kendall and her iced tool. This is why we do not ice our tools in Chinese medicine. It's almost sacrilegious to do so as a regular part of your Gua Sha practice. Are there rare exceptions where perhaps you might use a cold or ice tool? Yes, but I can literally only think of one or two, which we'll talk about in another video. But in general, we would love for you not to ice your tool. And think of it this way, okay? Think about when you have menstrual cramps, if you've ever had menstrual cramps or know someone who has had menstrual cramps. The last thing you would put on your belly when you're in pain is ice. Right? What do we do when we have menstrual cramps and we're like dying of pain? We put a heat pad on it, and the heat helps to soothe us. It takes the edge off the pain. It makes us feel better. In Chinese medicine, when you're having menstrual cramps, we see that as a problem of blood stagnation, which is when the circulation in the blood vessels in and surrounding your uterus are stagnant. It's not moving. It's like facing traffic jam. It can't move and flow properly. So this is a common cause as we see it for menstrual cramps. So when you apply heat to that, you help the blood move better, right? But if you were to apply ice to that, you're actually freezing the movement in your tissues, and that's going to make the pain worse. So it's the same principle to your face. If you are applying ice regularly to your face, it might feel good. You might love that refreshing zap of that cold energy, but the physical reality is that cold stops movement. So if you have pain issues that affect your face and head, like TMJ pain, headaches, if you have constant sinus congestion or runny nose or a cold that you can never get rid of, an ice tool is literally the last thing that you need or should use. So this is what I was saying earlier about how when you take the Chinese medicine out of Gua Sha, there is a chance that you can harm your health. And this is what I'm talking about. So please don't use ice tools unless the one exception I could see is if you use a hot tool first. Like if you heat your tool under hot tap water and then using cold, that I could see and that I could get behind, but only if you expose your skin and your tissues to heat first and then cold. And even then I would say, don't use an iced tool, use a cool tool. Like just run it under cold water in your tap, or at the very most, refrigerate your tool, don't ice it. So it's just like with saunas, right? It's okay to expose yourself to hot sauna or hot steam and then cold plunge, but cold plunge only without that can be too extreme for a lot of people, especially if you have weak health. So, okay, we've talked about this long enough. Let's move on.
Well, there's a whole like lymphatic system situation that happens that I don't know a lot about, but I do know when you do your jaw, you have to kind of let it drain down the side of your neck.
Okay, let's talk about this because you do have a lymphatic system happening here, but you do not have to do a downward draining stroke when you do Gua Sha to your jaw. That's another example of how Gua Sha has been misunderstood as a lymphatic drainage technique. It is 100% not a lymphatic drainage technique. Gua Sha is Gua Sha. It's its own type of technique, and its characteristics are that it's a one-directional stroke, meaning you only go in one direction at a time, and it's repetitive. So it's a repeating stroke, okay? So when we practice Gua Sha like it's a lymphatic drainage technique, it's actually fine. There's nothing wrong with doing this, but the concept is wrong. The reason why I always harp on this point is because you just get so much more out of Gua Sha when you understand it correctly as a concept. When you only understand it as something that benefits lymphatic drainage, you're only understanding like 1/8 of what Gua Sha is. It does improve lymphatic circulation, but it's not the only thing it improves, and it's not the only thing that we care about when we practice Gua Sha, okay? In lymphatic drainage technique, they're working so lightly at the superficial layer of just the skin. So in Gua Sha, we might work really lightly, depending on your goal. But in areas like the jaw, and the cheek, and the neck, we often are pushing deeper past that superficial lymphatic layer into the fascia layer, into the muscle layer, even sometimes to the bone. That's why you don't need to do these drainage strokes. You can if you want to, but it's the wrong concept, okay? You could just work your jaw like this and you would be fine. Your lymph will not get stuck up here, okay? Instead of doing one drainage stroke down your neck, I would actually use your Gua Sha tool and work open your entire neck. And I would actually start there. After you prep your skin with your mist, right? So we put that down first, and then your oil. What I would do then is I would work the entire neck with Gua Sha. And look, I'm doing upward strokes because I always do one direction at a time. So when I'm going up, I just go up. And upward strokes are nice because you can really hit these areas better, like the angle of your jaw. And when you're working your neck, you can really hit the bottom of your skull or your occiput better when you are coming from lower to upper. There is nothing wrong with an upward stroke, but for anyone who just is uncomfortable with that because you've been so programmed to think that you have to lymphatic drain yourself, you can also do downward strokes. You would just do all your downstrokes together and all your upstrokes together. You would not go up, down, up, down. That's not good Gua Sha technique. Because remember, Gua Sha is a one-directional, repetitive stroking technique, okay? Now that the blood, qi, which is energy, and fluid circulation is improved in your neck, and the tension is softened in your neck, now you can come up and do your jaw.
I Gua Sha my brow. It's probably not traditional, but I go really up on this one because I feel like it needs a little lift. It kind of falls into my...
Okay, that's fine. We can use Gua Sha to lift the brow for sure. But I want to just draw your attention to something here. Let's just go back and look at what's happening on Kendall's forehead. So can you see that it's going from pink to red pretty quickly? If you can't see that, I'll recreate it here for you. So basically what she's doing is she's using the edge of her tool to stroke her forehead. So it looks like this. She's doing this. And can you see that when I do this, look at this red streak that's forming. Okay, so I know my skin and I know that in a few minutes that will go away. But for some people, if you were to continue to do this for, let's say, a minute even, you might actually pull out what we call sha. Sha is this red, rashy looking situation that happens on your skin when you do medical Gua Sha. The traditional practice of Gua Sha, which is usually done on the back or the neck, other parts of the body to help relieve pain conditions, strengthen the immune system, and even to help diagnose what kinds of imbalances a person is facing in their body. Base Gua Sha is actually a branch or one piece of the entire Gua Sha pie, and it's actually a pretty small piece of the Gua Sha pie. So if she keeps going like that, it's possible that she could start getting little red specks. They start to pop up and they look like sand. If it starts to happen, what you want to do is turn your tool from the edge to the flat surface, okay? And use that surface to stroke. It honestly feels kind of better, almost like more soothing, especially on the forehead, to use this part of your tool versus the edge. Now, the other thing you need to do, and what she also needs to do here, is lighten up that pressure. She looks like she's going in a little too hard for my taste, because the forehead actually is super vulnerable to getting a sha situation than the rest of the face where it's more fleshy. Anytime you're really close to bone, you risk that Sha coming out. So softening that up, I'll do it on this side more soft, using the flat part of the tool, and maybe even slowing down are all the ways you prevent Sha from expressing and what you would need to do if you start to see it coming out. See how this way get a little pink, but not so aggressively red.
It's probably not traditional, but I go really up on this one because I feel like it needs a little lift. It kind of falls into my eye. And it's a shorter eyebrow by like the tiniest amount.
Gua Sha is really good for lifting the brow and opening up the eye. She's picking up her eyebrow and stroking up across the forehead. And that is going to give you an instant lift. But if you want to make that last better over time, I would actually do Gua Sha along the brow bone to really soften the tension of the muscles that work really hard here, that make you do this, make you look concerned, feel concerned, worry, or like when you can't see right or when you squint. These muscles work really hard and they draw the brow down. So what you want to do is you actually want to stroke along those muscles. That will soften and smooth the fascia, help break down any little tiny micro adhesions, which are like little knots in your brow, just like the ones you might get in your neck or your shoulder, but tinier. Over time, you can really help release all of that chronic muscle tension that we experience here, and you'll be able to hold that result of opening the eye and lifting the brow better. I would work from here, the middle of the forehead, where your third eye is, all the way out across the brow. And then I would stroke across the temple, because the temple has a lot of tension in most people, and releasing that tension really helps to open the eye and lift the brow. So I would do this for a minute. I would either do this instead or add it to what she's doing. And then I would add another thing, which is just some focused work on the temple. And what I would do is find one of the edges of your Gua Sha tool that looks like these double prongs or just a single tip, and I would start to make circles. What I'm doing here is called Bo Jin. It's technically not Gua Sha, because technically Gua Sha is a one-directional repetitive stroke. And Bo Jin technique utilizes this circular motion or like a zigzag motion. I would do that for a minute. I'll make a video about Bo Jin because I think it's going to be another viral trend for TCM Beauty right behind Gua Sha. Maybe that'll be my next video. So remember to subscribe and turn on those notifications. Something really fun to do is if you have a tool like this. This is the LANSHIN sculpting spoon. This was the LANSHIN Pro Gua Sha tool. So the sculpting spoon has this little pen tip here that's really nice for Bo Jin. It's like your finger, but harder. After about a minute or so, that should feel really nice. And then what I would do is finish with some soothing, smoothing Gua Sha strokes right across the temple from the edge of the eye all the way into the hairline. I would do this for about a minute or so. I always finish with soothing, smoothing strokes. And I'm making sure to use the flat part of my tool, not the edge, remember. You could even take this soothing, smoothing stroke across your entire eye like this. Now with a tool like this, it's so large, you get a lot of coverage, a lot of surface area coverage. So you can hit a lot of face in one stroke, which is why I love this tool. Not only because I designed it, but because it is very functional. I would argue the most functional. Okay, so that's it for the Gua Sha portion of Kendall's Beauty Secrets. I hope that this was helpful, and I hope you learned a bit more about Chinese medicine itself and our overall approach to skin health, well-being, longevity, and ultimately to delivering more, better, abundant, exuberant health in your body. That's the goal and the point of Gua Sha. The cosmetic benefits are really just a side effect. A powerful side effect, but not the only goal of Gua Sha. And by the way, if you practice Gua Sha with an ice tool or like its lymphatic drainage technique, it's not against the law, and it's your body, it's your choice to practice what feels best and works best for you. I'm just here to show you the Chinese medicine way in the hopes that it really helps support you through your life so that you have the health that you need and deserve. So with that, I'm gonna sign off. Please subscribe, sign up for notifications, like, comment, all of the above. It really does help. I know people say that all the time, but it really does. So thank you. and I'll see you again in the next, hopefully very soon, especially if you do all those 4 things.